Washington, progressive groups are organizing tens of thousands of protesters to storm the streets within hours should President Donald Trump fire Special Prosecutor Robert Mueller, determined to intensify the crisis while testing the resiliency of the year-old resistance movement. The White House has repeatedly said Trump has no intention of ousting Mueller, a move that probably would require him to get buy-in from Justice Department leaders, including Deputy Attorney General Rod Rosenstein. But activists on the left remain wary of Trump's intentions, saying they fear he could act, perhaps even over the Christmas holidays when Congress and the public are distracted. Vowing not to be surprised, more than 24 progressive organizations have spent the past several weeks lining up what they vow would be an immediate response that would be hard to ignore. Using an online portal that links the various groups and their contact lists, more than 140,000 people have registered to begin protesting within hours of Trump's decision, at predetermined locations in more than 600 cities. The protests are designed to harness what organizers predict would be a wave of nationwide outrage that would follow Trump's action, which Democrats in Congress warn could trigger a constitutional crisis. It's pretty rare that people would commit to mobilize around something that we don't even know will happen, so it shows the energy and passion out there, said Lisa Gilbert, Vice President of Legislative Affairs for Public Citizen, a Washington, D.C.-based environmental and government reform organization. The reaction will be swift. The threats of mass protests appear also to have broad support within the Democratic Party. Last week, former Attorney General Eric Holder wrote on Twitter that Mueller's ouster would be an absolute red line. The American people must be seen and heard, they will ultimately be determinative, wrote Holder, who served as Attorney General from 2009 until 2015 under President Barack Obama. Planning for the coordinated protests, even if such plans remain unlikely to be activated, is once again helping to unite the activist left amid recent divisions over how best to use direct action in expressing their disgust with Trump and his policies. Within hours of Trump's election in November 2016, anguished liberals began consoling themselves through large, often impromptu and disorganized protests in major cities. In January, that activism further gelled when several million people marked Trump's inauguration by participating in the Women's March, either in Washington or at one of more than 600 satellite demonstrations nationwide. Protests also erupted throughout the year after Trump pushed to enact a ban on travelers from 7 majority Muslim nations, tried to bar transgender troops from the military, pulled out of the Paris Climate Accord and rescinded protections for undocumented immigrants brought to the U.S. by their parents, to name just a few actions. But for months, activists have struggled to agree on whether such demonstrations are effective when compared with other forms of action such as making calls to Congress or working to elect like-minded candidates. David Sivers, campaign director for MoveOn organization, one of the groups helping to organize the potential demonstrations, said the firing of Mueller would far outweigh concerns that demonstrations could distract from progressives' electoral mission.